Hi there, Tracy here with another scrapbooking layout using the Scraptastic Kit Club kit for the month of December, which was called All I Want for Christmas Is You. And here I am just looking through that kit. I have the embellishments, some of the embellishments laid out in these two trays. And then these are some photos that I still need to scrap from Christmas. And I'm going to pick this one of myself. I just took a picture at my vanity and I'm going to scrapbook that. I'm just going to trim it up with my Creating Memories trimmer here, which I love. I love having a tiny trimmer for trimming up pictures. And I'm just picking out some papers that have some bluey greens in them because I was wearing, there's a lot of bluey green. My bedroom walls are green and I was wearing a turquoise sweater. And so I also want to catch some red in this layout because it is a holiday layout and I'm wearing that red Santa hat. I very quickly decided to use this brick wall paper as my background, and that is from 7 Paper. It's called Felix, and I don't know what I'm doing right now. This layout is going to have a lot of layering of embellishments in particular, and so I've been talking a lot on my channel lately about layering and my process for layering, and so this is going to be just a follow-up to that. So this paper, this beautiful plaid paper, is from Basic Gray. I absolutely love it. And when I cut off that chunk, I noticed that the green background, like the B side of that paper, is also really, really pretty and will look really nice with that photo. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm thinking about taking a strip of this paper, but it's not actually going to be long enough, and also the cross-stitch look of it looks a little bit too traditional or old-fashioned looking for the look that I'm going for with this one. I really want this layout to have a bit more of a bold or contemporary flavor, so I don't want to necessarily draw from something as traditional as a cross-stitch pattern. So here I am just matting the photo on this red paper from the Scraptastic Kit Club. And I like to mat my photos with a bold color or something that kind of really stands out, and so that red paper does the trick. And then I'm going to also use that layer of the Basic Gray paper that was already kind of chosen for me. It kind of jumped out when I cut the plaid paper, and I'm going to add a piece of this bold white and blue diagonal stripe, and I'm layering it such that you can just barely see it. I love to do that with a bold diagonal stripe or a bold stripe of any kind. I like to layer it so that you can just barely see those stripes. Now I just took out my Stampin' Up notepad paper. It's like a big giant pad, and I like to do my outlining on that so that if I have any stray marks, they don't go on my work surface, and that just keeps my work surface a little bit less distracting. I used to outline right on my work surface, and I had a Fiskars mat and I completely ruined it with tons and tons of outlining marks. So when I got this new Martha Stewart mat a couple of years back, I decided I would use these Stampin' Up pads of paper as my background. So I'm just using a 0.05 pen, and I'm actually doing some outlining right on the photo, like just where the white edge meets the photo. And then I'm also outlining right along the outside of that photo where it meets the red. The outlining on these papers is going to help bring these papers together and look like they coordinate with one another. That chevron red paper that I have a long horizontal strip of is by October Afternoon. And I think I mentioned what all the other papers are. And I'm going to be putting this photo up in the top left-hand corner or in the left-hand side of this layout. And so because of that, I made all of those papers line up such that there's just a little bit of them showing on the left-hand side. I don't always do that, but that was sort of my thinking for this time. I just wanted little strips of them showing on the left side with a little bit more of the papers showing on all the other 3 sides. So before I get going, I went ahead and put down the plaid paper. I was pretty sure it was going to be like a wide strip in around the center-ish of this paper. And then I also went ahead and put down the chevron strip that was going to go across the back. And before I put all my other layers on this, I'm just going to put some gold snowflakes on the background. And I'm doing that. I could have misted, but I thought I would try this. I've actually never done this. I'm going to stamp with mist using my a little makeup sponge. And I'm doing that so that I can control it a little bit more than if I misted it, if I sprayed it with the nozzle. And that way I don't have to do quite as much masking. And like I said, I can just control how much of this mist is going, or this ink, because I'm not really misting it, is going on the paper and where exactly it's going. So I really like that look. I'm going to make I guess like a cascade of snowflakes that are going to look like they're sort of floating down in the left and center of the layout. And I do like this technique. It works pretty well. And I find that with an intricate stencil like this, and this is the stencil that came in the kit. If you got 2 kits in a row, you get a little freebie. This is the little freebie, this stencil with the 3 snowflakes on it. And I find with stencils that are really intricate, like this snowflake one, that sometimes when you mist, mist goes under the little bits, like the little arms of the snowflakes and that sort of thing, and you don't get quite as crisp of an image. And also you have to do quite a lot of masking with a stencil like this if you're going to mist. So this inking process using a makeup sponge is just a little bit better for me. This is the first time I tried it with color mist like this, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll probably do it again. So I just wanted to make it look random, and in order to do that, I just wanted to make sure that a few of them are going off the page. Now this is my heat-proof non-stick mat that I have. You can get these, a couple of different companies make these mats, and what I love about them is that they really wipe up very, very easily. You see me here just using a baby wipe, and mine was dirty before I used it, so I just went ahead and cleaned it up entirely. So I got all the old and the new ink and paint and stuff off of it. And now I'm just doing a really thorough job of cleaning my hands. I'm a little paranoid because I'm really klutzy, and I tend to get, if there's anything on my hands, I will get it all over my layout, and then I'll be really unhappy with it. So I'm just making sure that I get that off of my hands, that gold ink. And now I'm deciding to use this ho 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 as an embellishment on this layout. And so I could have painted it white, but I really like to mist my wood veneers white because it allows the wood grain to show through. And it just gives you a slightly different finish than paint does. It's less opaque and a little bit more translucent. I used my heat gun, and I also used a paper towel to just dab it dry a little bit faster. And I like how that gives a nice soft white color as opposed to paint, which might have given a harsh white color. And there we go. I'm just, that's where my little layers of paper in my photo is going to go. And I think what I'm doing here is I actually noticed that I got some mist on the photo, and I'm over at my computer and I'm reprinting this photo. To print all of my photos, almost all that I scrapbook and use in Project Life, I use my Epson PictureMate Charm, which is a 4x6 printer, and I just print at home. So the ho 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 is going to go over here, and I'm just going to take a look at what other embellishments come with this kit so that I can, I'm looking for colors that I think will match, as well as some stuff that is going to go with, I guess, some messages and words and phrases that I think will go with the theme of this layout. And this layout is about how much I love Christmas Eve, and I love Christmas Eve for a different reason than some people, I'm guessing. I love running errands on Christmas Eve. I'm guessing that a lot of people don't. But I've always done this, and I really, whether it's delivering presents or picking up a couple of things, I don't particularly like to go to the mall because parking is usually, people are grumpy at the mall. But everywhere else, like little shops and stores and stuff, like I live in a suburb, and we've got like a little plaza with a couple of little shops and a grocery store. Those sorts of places, I find people tend to be in a really good mood. And so I really like that. And so that's why I purposely took that selfie with the idea that I would scrapbook my love of Christmas Eve and how I like to spend Christmas Eve. So you see me here just grabbing some embellishments that I think are going to layer well with this layout. And I really like how the December circle on this tag can be completely hidden by the Be Merry flare badge, because it would be a little distracting if it were any other place on the tag. So I like that. And here I am doing basically my first cluster over here on the right with that tag and the Merry, Merry, Merry and the snowflake and the tree. And now up here, I'm going to layer a couple of more things. So I've got this frame, I believe in Santa, and then that Ellie Studio tag or little thing that says the magic of the season. I thought I needed a little something else up there, so I put that gray tag, and then I'm going to stick in another snowflake. And so you see me already, I'm starting to repeat things. So there's a snowflake in each side, there's a black thing on each side, and there's a tag on each embellishment cluster. When I said side, I meant embellishment cluster. There's 3 clusters here. And so when I'm layering embellishments amongst my papers, here I'm just taking photos of it because now I have to take it all apart and put it all together again. So I just took a picture of each cluster, each of the 3 clusters, and I'm grabbing some red and white baker's twine because I love red and white baker's twine. It's my favorite kind. And what better time to use it than on a Christmas layout, except for when it distracts. And that's actually going to be the case on this layout. So we'll come to that, and I'll talk you through how I made that decision to not use the red and white twine. So before I stop and talk to you a little bit about my layering process, which I'm going to do, first, I'm going to spell out my title, and my title is going to be Feeling Elfish, and the word elfish has no repeat letters, so I want to use this 7 papers font here that came in the kit. It's a puffy red letter sticker, and I love how bold it is. I love this skinny block letter. I just love it. So I decided to use it for the word elfish. And then I really love the white font, the foam font that came in the kit, but I really also want to use up this wood veneer puffy sticker. And I think either would have looked good. I think the white title would have made this layout look a lot more airy and bright. But I like the readability of the wood grain, and I like the casualness of that wood grain. It looks kind of like a doodled title. I'm just sticking a little Scraptastic cut apart tag or label in behind the word feeling, just to make it a little bit more readable so that chevron background isn't quite so distracting. I am embellishing this cluster right here, and I am following a couple of different principles as I do it. First of all, I'm thinking about it as being 3 separate clusters to create this visual triangle around my circle. The second thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to repeat different elements in all 3 of the clusters, but when I do it, I personally like to have one cluster have a little something special. So in this case, this cluster has a little bit more oomph to it because it has this large wood veneer piece, and it also has this flare badge. And so I'm considering this cluster to be kind of like the primary, most interesting cluster, and then these 2 to be more secondary. I'm continuing vellum. I have vellum here and here. I don't have vellum here yet. I might stick some vellum in here, or I might not. It's not an absolute rule that I always follow, but I do have, for instance, I have this little star. I might be able to figure out a way to get a little bit of vellum up there.
I have black here, here, and here, and they're all black labels. I have a tag. I have a tag here, and a tag here. And I have a snowflake here and a snowflake here. I don't have a snowflake here because it feels like a snowflake here would be a little bit too distracting. I might try to stick a snowflake in there. I would love to use one of these acrylic snowflakes somewhere on this layout, but I think that, you know, if I do, I would have to take this off and, you know, maybe go with something like that. But then I think that kind of competes with the gift back there. I don't know. So I'm still kind of thinking about it. And I do have some smaller embellishing to do, but as I put together each cluster, what I'm doing is I'm looking for a contrast so I want to repeat colors from cluster to cluster, and I also want within each cluster there to be an assortment of different shapes. So this one had a lot of points between this Christmas tree and the snowflake points. So I decided to put this little Warm Memories circular die cut piece in here because it kind of softens this up a little bit, and there's rounded corners on the Mary, 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 and so that kind of softens it up a little bit too. And so right here, for example, there's nothing circular, so when I go to decide if I'm going to put my vellum in, I might be looking for a piece of circular vellum, or, you know, maybe not. Like I said, I don't always follow all of the rules. I put this frame is not going to go over the photo like it is now. It's going to stick down behind things. And yeah, that's basically the principles that I use when I'm layering embellishments. Is I don't want embellishments sticking out all over the layers. I want them to be clumped in different spaces so that they kind of have more impact than having them all kind of spread out around the layers. And yeah, so I'll put you back on fast forward, and if I have anything else to mention, I will stop and mention it.
So now I have to put all of those embellishments in place, but before I do so, I'm going to put down this word Elfish because how far over the tag goes. So the tag is the thing that extends the furthest to the right on that cluster of embellishments on the right. And so where the tag goes depends on where the E is. For this reason, I don't want it to look like that is the word selfish covered up. So I have to make sure that I place that stripey tag in such a way that it's not exactly right beside the E. I do want it to overlap the E a little bit, but I don't want it to overlap it so much that it looks like it's covering the word S and that is the word selfish. So I need to cut the little design part off of that because it helps it to stick more easily under my papers. And I'm going to go ahead and stick the tree down first because it's easy. I knew exactly where I wanted it so that some of the boughs of the tree, I don't want to lose the treeness of it. So I needed to stick it there so that you could see the tip of it and so that you could see the boughs of it. And so see how the tag is up a little bit from the baseline of where the letters are so that if there were an S under there, you would see it sticking out, and there isn't. So that's kind of what I had in mind. I wanted the tag to layer over it a little bit, but not so much. So I'm using, you notice that I switched to my smaller tape runner, and I'm using the Tombow Mono tape runner, and I like that one. And I'm just thinking about stapling that word Warm Memories. I want it to flip up a little bit off the page, but I'm not entirely sure if I want to bother stapling it or not. So one thing that I found is that this snowflake was sort of getting a little bit lost. It didn't have the impact that I wanted it to have. So I just took my .01 pen, which is quite thin, and drew a line around the outside of the white part of it just to add a little bit of impact to it and make it stand out a little bit. Where there's only two little branches from the snowflake showing. I just wanted to make sure that it was noticed. And now these letter stickers here are from the Fancy Pants collection it's called Wish Season. And I am lining them up like so. And I like them. They're a nice casual, and they do have better readability than the white ones would have had, and they just give it a different feeling. So here's where I'm deciding that baker's twine in the red and white is just too distracting. Especially, it's kind of competing with the E, and I don't want that. So I'm going to tie a little bow with this white baker's twine. I have baker's twine from Stampin' Up, and I really like it because it's so soft. It ties a really pretty bow, and yeah, it's thin. I think it's a little bit thinner than your typical baker's twine, the Stampin' Up kind. So here I go. I'm going to go ahead and staple that in. And I think I've said before that when you're opening up your stapler like that, you just want to make sure that you err on the side of stapling a little bit more softly than you normally would, because if you staple really hard, it will rip your paper. So I actually erred a little bit too much on that side, and the staple didn't go far enough in, so I just used the blunt end of my stapler. There's a tip for you. Cut one corner out of a frame, and it makes it a lot easier to layer it underneath of something, because if you've got glue, like I've got glue under those layers, it wouldn't have gone in quite as smoothly. So cutting out the corner that's covered really helps slide a frame in behind your layers. So I'm just tying that same baker's twine. So once I decided to go with the white baker's twine, I knew I'd be using it on all of the tags. I don't want to, if I'm adding tags for consistency, then I don't want to put different types of string on each tag, or put string on some but not on others. If I'm adding it for consistency, I want it to be consistent, obviously. I'm only outlining 3 of the arms of this snowflake because only 3 will show, so there's no point in going to the trouble of outlining it all. Pardon me. And I'm just kind of playing around a little bit with having these embellishments line up in such a way that you can see. I like readability is important to me. If I'm putting phrases on something, I want you to be able to read the phrase. Sometimes I will cover up part of it, especially if it's clear of what it is. So you can see that, for example, on the Mary, 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 I wanted you to be able to see one M just so that you knew that says Mary. I mean, you can figure it out. Even if it just said Airy, you'd know that it was Mary because it's a Christmas layout. But still, I like to... readability is important to me, so I like to put it in such a way that you can see the word. So I want I Believe in Santa to be over to the left a little bit more than the Ellie's Studio die cut that says The Magic of the Season. But I want them to overlap, but I want them to overlap in a way that you can still read both of them. So that's why I'm sort of messing around a little bit here. And I wanted the frame to kind of pull up along with those die cuts so that I can stick in a piece of vellum if I want to. If I stick in a piece of vellum, I'll be putting it behind the frame. So I want the frame and the I Believe in Santa and the Magic of the Season to all be kind of high up on the layers so that I can easily pull them back and stick a piece of vellum in underneath. So now I'm just tying another piece of string in another bow on this third tag. And what I should have done here is outlined this tag. Even though the other 2 are not outlined, this one is such a pale color and it really does blend in with the background, and you kind of miss the fact that it is a tag at all, especially once there are some items layered on top of it, and that ho 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 is so big that it is going to cover up a big part of the fact that it's a tag. And then I'm also putting this tiny little embellishment that says here and now, and I love that. It's just so cute. I have to put it on. It's just so adorable. I just have to mess a little bit with that string to make sure that it looks, natural and okay. Anyhow, I should have outlined it, but I didn't, so I'm going to go back. Now I'm only putting glue on the top hoe because the 2 bottom hoes are... Oh God. The two bottom hose need to be able to be pulled up because I'm going to be layering some things underneath. So, and I'm using my glue around the outside edge of that flare badge as opposed to using a pop-up piece of foam tab underneath. Here I go outlining this tag after the fact, which is much more difficult than outlining it before the fact, but it's still okay. It'll work all right. And I'm using my 0.05 pen for that because that's the pen I used for the other outlining. So anyhow, I used my Tombow Mono Multi adhesive, that green bottle of glue, to stick my Be Merry down because the phone tab wouldn't work because there's a hole behind it in the word hoe. So I used my two-way glue pen. That's my Zig two-way glue pen to glue down the vellum gift that is behind that ho ho ho. And it doesn't need too much to stay in place because it's a very light embellishment. And now I'm just going to place this black tag in such a way that it's, I wanted to cover some of the edges of the paper there because it was outlined. There was a lot of distraction going on there. So I just wanted the black tag to cover up a lot of that distraction. I'm going to outline this entire snowflake because I don't know how much of it is going to show. It looks like a lot of it is. So, because it's going to be behind a wood veneer, and the wood veneer has lots of, detail to it. So it doesn't take too long. It might seem like this is a cumbersome thing to do, but I really like the impact that it adds to this die cut, especially over here. When I got to this part, I was really glad that I had outlined the other two snowflakes because this snowflake would have really gotten lost right here if I didn't outline it. So now I think I'm just looking for that vellum star that I showed you when I was speaking, and I'm going to go back and talk to you in real time, like when I was doing the layout. So here comes that.
Okay, so I am finished layering the main embellishments that are going to be layered amongst the layers of paper on this layout. So I have this kind of set of papers right here. I have the photo, a red paper, a greenish blue paper, and a blue and white striped paper. They are all kind of sandwiched together and layered. And then amongst those layers, I have some embellishments. And so what I've done here is I've set up 3 clusters of embellishments, and I just like the look of that as opposed to just slipping them in every which way. So here's my main cluster of embellishments, and it has my kind of accent piece or my the piece of most interest. I don't want to spread these things across because I want one of them to be dominant, so that's why I put these 2 interesting things in the same cluster, and these 2 elements, so a wood veneer and a flare badge, are not repeated in the other 2. That gives this one a little bit more substance and gives your eye a place to start or to focus on. But then the other elements that are in each of these clusters are repeated from cluster to cluster. So I have a tag with some white, with a white bow on it in each cluster, right here and here. And then I have and on this one I put a little extra because again, this is the embellishment that, has a little bit more. Then I have vellum on each cluster. So I have a vellum gift right there. I have a vellum star right here. I have a vellum tree right here. And then there is an outlined snowflake on each cluster of embellishments. So I've got one here, and one here. And then I have one of these black labels on each of the embellishment clusters as well. So one here, and one here. And then I mixed it up a little bit because I don't want it to look too matchy-matchy. So I have, this here and this here, and this one here that don't necessarily go, but there's sort of, something else in each embellishment that isn't quite so matchy-matchy. That just makes it look a little bit more natural. So, So yeah, that's, I guess, all that I have to say about the layering of embellishments. So if you're having trouble layering embellishments, think about clustering your layers of embellishments instead of just sticking them in willy-nilly, and think about repeating things in each of your clusters and having one cluster be kind of like a standout type of, so that's what this one is right here. So I'm going to go back to my process now, and I'll put you on fast forwards for that.
So now is the time to add the small details to these clusters, and so I'm grabbing these Pink Fresh Studio acrylic stickers, and they add a really pretty fine detail to my clusters. And this is the time when you want to grab for non-paper embellishments, tiny things that you can just put in every here and there to just add a little bit of interest and dimension to your embellishment clusters. And so I am adding the stars all in all three of those embellishment clusters, and then I went through and added some of the red stars to each of those embellishment clusters. Now I have these puffy stickers from Fancy Pants that also came in the kit. So every single thing on this layout is from the kit, except for my mists. And this is another puffy sticker that came in the kit. I think it's from Fancy Pants as well. I thought about kind of having a line of arrows that's going to point to my journaling, but I'm going to change my mind about that. And I was really going overboard here and adding these gold chipboard stickers too, and it was just too much. And I really love those pretty acrylic ones, so I wanted them to sort of speak for themselves, and I found that the gold was just competing a little bit too much. So I'm using my ruler here to draw lines, but when I do this, something I don't think I've ever mentioned before is that I'm actually not lining these lines with my ruler. I'm drawing the line just a little bit off of the ruler so that it's a little tiny bit wobbly, and that makes it look like it's hand drawn lines, but they're actually not. I mean, they are hand drawn, but they're not quite as perfect as they would be if I just ran my marker right along the ruler. And I used a 0.01 marker for that, and then I'm going to use a thicker tipped marker for my actual journaling, so that the lines are going to kind of blend into the background, and the journaling itself is going to stand out a little bit. I was using my 0.07 marker, but it was running out, so I had to change to my 0.05, and then I just backtracked a little bit just to thicken those first words that were too light. My journaling says, one of my favorite parts of the holiday is, believe it or not, running errands on Christmas Eve. I love how everyone is so happy, in brackets, as long as you stay away from the malls, and the excitement in the air. And I have a tip for you about journaling. So you notice that I wrote all my journaling out ahead of time, so I knew what I was going to say. The other thing that I do is I try to draw fewer lines than I think I'm going to need, and then do as much journaling as I can, and then try to judge how much more I'm going to need to finish off. And so that's how I got my line to end exactly where my writing ended. And I think I'm just going to clean up a little bit here, and then I'm going to do some misting. So my final touch for many of my layouts is to just drip a little bit of ink from my mist bottles in, 3 different places or across the layout or whatever. In this case, I'm just following the 3 embellishment clusters, although I'm sort of going above one of the embellishment clusters because I don't want to compete with the journaling. I find if those ink splatters land on the journaling, it can interfere with the readability. So here are the close-ups. And sorry that it's a wee bit overexposed there, but you'll see the photos at the end of the video will show the true colors of what this layout actually looks like. It's just when I put it up to my camera, it's like right beside my light, so it tends to get a little bit overexposed there. I'm just fixing that arrow so that it is more in line with the beginning of my journaling. So I have 2 more holiday photos that I absolutely need to scrapbook. I have more holiday photos that are, I'll scrap them if I could, but I'm sort of running out of time. My January kit is going to be here anytime now, and I have lots and lots of photos to scrap for January. So you may see another 1 or 2 layouts from me in the coming days and week. Just scrapbooking using this All I Want for Christmas Is You kit, just finishing off those last 2 or 3 photos that I have left to scrap, and then you'll see me moving on. You'll also see lots of project life from me because I'm doing project life on a weekly basis, so I will be sharing that with you guys, either the process or just showing you my pages as I go along. So check out the photos at the end of this video and leave me a comment or question if you've got anything to say. I love hearing from you guys. Thanks so much and have a really great scrappy week.